All right, welcome to Rapid Fire Manufacturing. Today I have Sean Kincaid. He's the president of K&F Electronics. They specialize in printed circuit board design, reverse engineering, and assembly. Arguably one of the most American people in electronic industry right now. I see all your videos with the American flag and really promoting manufacturing here in America, so I appreciate that. So he is the president also for the SMTA for Michigan.
Yes.
So president just in everything you do,
I,
apparently. That's
I,
cool.
yeah, I mean, it's why not, right? If you're gonna do it, be at the top, right? I have a,
Yeah,
I have a
absolutely.
funny Macho Man gif like on deck on call all the time, and it's where he's like, "The cream rises to the top," right? So
Yeah,
I'm always firing that thing out, though.
that's awesome. But yeah, he's just got a wealth of knowledge in this industry, and it's evident you're posting a lot of insightful stuff too. It helps me because I'm not very familiar. So I appreciate you bringing all this knowledge to the industry.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
I
not.
want to start off with kind of getting the background. So you're third generation. What's the story behind that? How are you doing today? And where do you see the future?
A little background, my grandpa started our company in 1972. In the early 50s, he was working on circuit boards, and that's all he ever wanted to do. And then in the 70s, after working for a couple board shops out in Chicago, he wanted to move back to Michigan, start his own. And so he started it, and then my dad took it over in the 90s. And then, so then I was exposed to it and raised around it my entire life. I remember being like 5 years old walking plating decks, and watching the circuit boards get plated, and it's literally all I've ever wanted to do. I did have like in fifth grade, they fill you out that form, like, what do you want to be when you're older? And I put comedian. So, but other than fifth grade, like it's all I've ever wanted to do is manufacture circuit boards. Is Then obviously go pro in every sport. I was gonna decide like, do I want to be NHL or MLB, right? So it was kind of
Right.
like, other than that, it's been circuit boards, and then in the around 2015, we started to see a real crunch from overseas, really it started like 2008 when the depression hit, and then it just got progressively worse as email communications became easier, and you could just send the file, and then they'll produce it and ship it to your door. So we had to get down to like 3 people, and then basically I started running the shop, and I learned a lot when you're doing every single process yourself. And then 2020, we decided to start doing printed circuit board assembly as well. So not only were we going to make the boards, but we were going to populate the boards as well. And that we were trying to drive, okay, there's got to be some work that somebody wants 24-hour turns, 48-hour turns, quick turn stuff that they can't produce because they can, but they can't ship it here in time, right?
Hmm.
So trying to find that niche, and I couldn't find it. And then in 2021, we closed the PCB manufacturing side, which crushes my soul. That's all I've ever wanted to be as a kid, and
Right.
kept the printed circuit board assembly side open. And now we're kind of like a third party inspector. So customer will want the Chinese price, so then they ship the boards to us, and then we inspect them as if we manufacture them in house. And then we give our certificate of compliance, electrical tests, stuff like that, so that way they know the boards are legit, they're gonna work.
No, that's cool that you wanted to stay in the business too, because I've seen scenarios where the next generation's like, hey, I want nothing to do with machining, nothing to do with landscaping, and they just will sell the company. But it seems like your heart has been in it since, like you said, other than that little fifth grade comedy stint. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's
no,
funny
that's
too.
cool.
My,
Now,
my dad never wanted me to be in it, and I never understood why. And then once I started cleaning out like nitric acid tanks and hydrochloric, doing the ads, I was like, okay, all right, I'm making 13 an hour here. I don't know if I wanted to. He's like, told you don't want to work in a factory, man. Go to college, right? So it was, yeah, but I don't know. Once it's in your blood, it's in your blood.
yeah, reverse psychology. He was doing
Yeah,
that on purpose.
probably,
He's like,
right?
I
No,
know he's gonna. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I imagine there's some challenges just in the electronic industry in general, and like you said, cheaper prices. How do you combat some of that in the industry?
You can't really compete with it. Perfect example was I had this board the other day. Guy was, red, white, blues, gotta be made in America, made in America, made in America. So we went out to 4 different board shops, got pricing, and it was ranged from like $60 to $80. And then he's like, I can't afford that, it's too much money. And then I was like, do you want me to see what my overseas suppliers can do? And he said, yeah, and then they came back at $6.36, right? So when you're talking about a swing between $60 versus $6.36, right, there's no amount of our quality's better, right? Or something like that.
Hmm.
Even the tariff of 25% is not going to put a dent on, 1,000% difference in price. And then when you
Right.
take those quantities up, you can't. Honestly, it's more about intellectual property these days, right? The big thing is when you send me the files, right, to build, you can actually kind of reproduce it if you had the right software and code, or if there's no code, it's just hardware, you could do that. So by keeping just the boards over there, you can't really tell what it does or how it functions or anything like that. But populating the components here is still where the intellectual property is. What I do see though, the real value is what we're going for this year and next year, which is it's called ISO 13485. It's for medical certified devices, right? So stuff that has to be built in the States. And then after that is going
Hmm.
to be AS 9100, which is aerospace. So stuff that has to be built in the States. And then after that
Hmm.
would be military, right? Stuff that has. So like with PCB Fab, we try to just stick to our consumer electronics, just regular 9001 ISO certification. And then, that didn't work out. So I'm not going to make the same mistake that I made over there into the assembly side, right? So I'm going to focus on who needs their stuff built like it's a requirement to build it in the USA, and I'm going to work with those people, right? That's who I want my customer base to be, because everyone else is just going to eventually, when you see that price over there, man, I don't know how you justify it of keeping it over here, because you have to think too, okay, what if their quality's bad, right? Well, they
Hmm.
would have to mess up 10 boards, right? Out of every verse one that you do correctly to justify that quality
Right.
difference. And so, it's such a tough spot, but I feel like if I can get into the markets with the correct certifications that need American manufacturing, I feel like that's going to be really boost our trajectory to just poof to the moon when we get the certification for
Yeah.
the AS9.
And I'm no, absolutely. And I'm seeing a lot more companies that are working on those certifications. So I think you're going to see a huge spike in that for sure.
Yeah.
I know you're also a co-host of the Decode podcast. What's kind of a trend that you're seeing in electronic manufacturing from interviewing various people on the show?
Everyone's kind of nervous about the market, a little bit. A lot of people in the PCB design world are talking about ultra high density, which is this new type of. They really push the envelope with, how tight the lines are on the circuit board and how small everything's getting miniaturization, right? So
Hmm.
they're really pushing the envelope with that, and everyone's trying to be the latest and greatest and smallest and thinnest. And I don't know about you, but I prefer the old days when I could put a Ethernet port into my laptop, right? Where I had more
Yeah.
than just two USB ports on my laptop, right? Those
Yes.
things used to be slammed with so much stuff, and it's almost like, all right, this is great. We can do it so thin. Wow. Like, do I need the
Hmm.
TV on the wall? I remember, like, we used to have those big, nice entertainment centers, right? That really
Yeah.
complemented your living room. And now you have to kind of just put it on the wall, right? Because it's so thin. I do like the fact that it's a lot lighter than those old ones, so I'll tell you that much. But,
A little
you know,
safer.
yeah, yeah. Everyone's trying to, push the envelope of smaller, faster, stuff like that. But for the most part, most people are doing still pretty good. So that's always positive and encouraging, because I don't know about you, but it's almost like every time I open up my Google News, someone's predicting some new bust or downfall, and then something's gonna,
Hmm.
this is the end of the stock run. This is the end of this. You're just like,
Yes.
right? And none of it ever happens. So it's kind of like, I feel like they're just putting it out there to be like, I told you so, right? Like I'm the
Yeah.
Nostradamus, right? Just
It's
trying to
like
create
it's
a
like the
name.
weather, the
Yeah.
unpredictable. They just
Yeah.
put stuff out and you're like, yeah, maybe it'll
Yeah.
happen, maybe it won't.
Especially the weather in Michigan, man.
Yeah.
It's almost like, what is this guy? Was he just making numbers up sometimes? Yeah.
Yeah, that's how same in Ohio.
Yeah.
Um,
Congrats, by the way, on making it to college football championship.
oh, thank you. Yeah, we're excited about that. I
I
wasn't going
bet.
to bring it up. I know between Ohio and Michigan can get a little
Well,
sensitive.
of course I'm gonna root if it's Michigan versus Ohio, right? But if it's not, like,
Yeah.
I'm big into this too with like manufacturing. If it's not me, then please be someone in my umbrella, right? Someone I
Yes.
know, someone that I like, and Ohio's in the umbrella, right? So if it's not me, might as well. And there's no one else from Michigan, like Michigan State or something. Sure, Ohio, why not? Yeah, Midwest, baby, let's go,
Yeah,
right?
I'll take that for sure. Yeah, and to your point, like the Surface Pro, you have to buy a separate docking station just to hook up HDMI, and it's just like, is that common? So, like you said, that's more common. Everything's getting, miniaturized, and I don't know. is the focus less on usability and more on just like how much data you can, yeah, I'm probably not
So
explaining that well,
no,
but
no, no. So it's perfect. This is a good example. So back in the day, they used to have these things called through-hole technology. And so there would be large caps or large, pins that stuck through to the bottom of the board. Now they use what's
Mhm.
called surface mount technology, where it's flat, completely flush against the board, right? Maybe you'll have a little bit of elevation, but it won't be much. So those through-hole technology, those aren't being mass produced anymore. Certain ones are, right? Like certain functions that you can't get into a surface mount yet.
Mhm.
But because of that, they have to now redesign to a surface mount factor, right? So instead of having a case that required something this big, you can have a case that requires this big because everything's component-wise is miniaturized. And also placing those through-hole components takes a lot of time. For example, to bend, place, cut, and clip and solder, one of them of mine costs 21 seconds on average, right, of labor time, where my pick and place time can do 5 in 1 second, right? So
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
the speed of these machines, right? So it's sometimes you're like, how is this cheaper, right? Because of the placement machines, right? And I don't even have like one of the fastest ones out there. There's machines out there that are like 2, 3x the speed of mine. So
It's
when you
crazy.
right, and especially when you get down to like they like tell you how fast it can place in a millisecond, and they use terms of counting of milliseconds, and you're like, oh man, 1 second is fast, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so it's amazing this the speed of those, but then that drives everything down from labor costs to and you can pump up the quantity, your capacity increases like crazy. So long story short, they used to use technology that was pretty big, protruded through, right? And now they can do
Mhm.
everything on one side flat, and then you got your case that's flush, right? So, that's kind of a reason of why it's getting smaller and smaller is because the technology, they just don't manufacture that. Why would you, right? Especially if you could redesign, that's an issue too. It's like, well, it might cost me $10,000 to $20,000 to redesign, but now my product is going to be cost me $100 less to produce it, right? So how many units am I going to produce versus the cost of the redesign, stuff like that. They kind of re-evaluate everything, and the more and more it's eventually like it becomes obsolete. You can't get those parts anymore, right? Some random part. All it takes is one, and then you got to change the design. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. And plus, now they can charge you for an extra item to purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 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 Look at this
So,
port. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah. Bluetooth technology now. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so as far as 2025, you said it's pretty optimistic all around. Other companies are optimistic. Are you seeing any instances where it's declining though? Like maybe a certain part of the electronic industry?
I can tell you what did decline last year was that election time. Oof, that was brutal. I had terrible bookings for, the month of October, November, December. It was bad. And then now it's starting to uptick again. As far as like industries that are going away, I don't, I did a study one time on the total, like where my customers are, the NACIS codes, the SIC codes, to try to narrow
Hmm.
down who's my customer base, right? And 9% of them are other CMs like me, right? They still buy the boards from me because they know I'm gonna validate and inspect it, and they're okay with my little bit of markup on it. And then the rest is like 3% instrumentation and controls, automation and machinery, and then the rest is like 1%. So the industries, and I have over 532 active customers per year with over 2,000 total over a 3-year span. So it is the widest range. I'm talking, the coolest product I make, I don't know about coolest, but it's fun, is it counts how many eggs a chicken is hatching, right? And then once it releases, the chicken stops producing a certain amount. Robot comes in, grabs it by the neck, puts it off to slaughter so you and I can eat it, and then brings in a new robot or a new chicken for you. It was the wildest thing,
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah, like that versus I have one product that's I can say this much, it potentially is gonna mine an asteroid in space, right? So like the diverseness of what I
Oh
right,
yeah.
wiper blades and controls and the little squirter thing, like it just automotive, it's the most diverse range. So none of them are really slowing or average. I think you got to step back and look at the big picture. Over 3 years, how are they doing, right? Because
Hmm.
everyone's gonna have a down year, everyone's gonna have an up year. So to micro, I kind of like to zoom out a little bit and get the overall picture. As far as that goes, everyone's pretty much on trend.
Oh, that makes sense. You did sales for a while for your company too. How has that translated to being president now? Do you think that those skills were really transferable and have helped you kind of see the vision for what K&F Electronics can be, or kind of the path that you need to go down?
Sales was brutal, not knowing manufacturing. And the way my dad started me was he just gave me a list, a pile of customers to call, and they
Hmm.
were in like this special folder off to the left. And I'd call them, and then I started getting like cussed out. And then probably
Yeah.
about a month or two later, he's like, "Every one of these people you're calling is somebody we had bad quality with." He didn't tell me that ahead
Oh,
of time, right? So that was like my first experience where it was my dad just being like, "All right, we'll see what you got," right? And then like there would be a question come up, and I'd have to pause and like, okay, ask a question, and then come back to, so I grew up in the old school hard knocks, cold calling, right? So
yeah.
sales is tricky, man. You either got it or you don't, and I hate to say it, it's just not something that's born with you. I don't know if you can learn it, I think you either got it or you don't. And sales has helped me as far as learning how to reach out, get out of that uncomfortable zone. But I think the biggest
Yeah.
part for me was when I was running the shop, the leadership that you had to do when you're down to like 3 employees running a 50-stage operation of different processes and directing to the people, right? And then I think to
Hmm.
me that the production side was better for leadership and that kind of, but I don't know. I don't really have the luxury of choosing what I get to do, I guess. It was kind of a necessity that I did sales, and then it was a necessity that I was a production manager, and now it's a necessity that I'm president, and now I'll do, if I got to clean a toilet or fix a pipe or maintain a machine or go out and see a customer or, run the lines, right? Like whatever it takes,
Yeah.
I kind of just have to do. I'm just a all around type of guy. But yeah, I would say it definitely didn't hurt. I'll tell you that much for sure.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We are out of time. Sean, thank you so much for everything you're doing in the industry. For those of you watching, stay tuned for more experts like Sean. Thank you.
So yeah.